All right, friends. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to read a story, and together we're going to practice asking the different kinds of questions. So you can read along with me. To mark my questions, I'm actually going to be using two different color sticky notes. If you have sticky notes at home, this will be a great tool for you to use when you do this activity on your own afterwards. If you don't have sticky notes at home, that's okay. You can also write your questions in a chart form like this as you read. Or you could just use a bookmark or a small little scrap piece of paper to just mark the page that you have a question about. So while I'm doing this activity, I am going to have my keyword sort in front of me, and this will kind of help me figure out what kind of questions I'm asking as I read. So let's go ahead and get started. Buddy and Earl go to school. So already I'm looking at the cover here, and we haven't been introduced to who Buddy and Earl are yet, but I'm using my picture clues, and I'm going to make the prediction that Buddy and Earl are the dog and the hedgehog here. So that could be a question that I have already. Who are Buddy and Earl? Now, is that a quick question or a deep thinking question? That's a quick question. Who are Buddy and Earl? Because I know that I'm going to be introduced to them in the story, but I am going to record it down on my green sticky note, and my green sticky note represents a quick question. So I'm going to write, who is Buddy and Earl? And notice how I'm also making sure that I end in a question mark because we're asking questions. I'm going to peel my sticky note off, and I'm just going to stick it to the page where I asked that question, which in this case happens to be the front cover. And we'll see if the author answers that question as we read, because it is a quick question. Buddy and Earl were about to climb a magic beanstalk when Meredith ran into the living room with some thrilling news. Today you're going to school. What kind of questions could you ask? Well, I have a few. My first question would be, how did they get a magic beanstalk? So I'm going to look at my chart. Well, that actually fits into my deep thinking questions. How do you think they got a beanstalk? So I'm going to take my sticky pad, and I'm going to write that question down. How do you think they got a magic beanstalk? Question mark. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick it onto my page. Now, my question for you, friends, is it okay to have more than one question per page? The answer is yes. But we also need to remember that not all questions help us better understand the story. So I'll give you an example. A question that might not help me fit my story, would be, why is Meredith's dress blue? Yes, it's a question. That would be, well, a deep thinking question because I said why. But do you think knowing why her dress is blue is going to help us with the story? It might, but it probably won't. If the story was called Meredith's Blue Dress, then that would be probably a more appropriate question to ask. But in this case, we know that the story is not about Meredith and her blue dress. This story is about Buddy and Earl going to school. Remember, our questions, we want them to encourage our thinking and to better understand the story. Hurrah! Cried Earl. Getting an education is the first step to achieving my dream of becoming a dentist. What kind of question could I ask here? Well, I would probably ask first, which one is Buddy, which one is Earl? But again, that would be a quick question because the author's probably going to make that a little more clear later on. Another question that I could ask is, well, how is an animal supposed to become a dentist? That would be a deep thinking question. How do you think an animal could become a dentist? So I could go ahead and I could write that down on my yellow sticky, my deep thinking question. I do not think hedgehogs can become dentists, Earl, said Buddy. Well, that answered our question already. We learned that Earl is the hedgehog. Buddy is the dog. With the right education, I can become anything, declared Earl, and so can you, Buddy. Buddy was very excited to hear this. Can I become a hot dog vendor? Asked Buddy. Yes, cried Earl. Can I become a police officer? Asked Buddy. Yes, cried Earl. Can I become a fire hydrant? Asked Buddy. Absolutely, cried Earl. Suddenly, Buddy remembered what he did to fire hydrants. I don't think I want to become a fire hydrant, Earl, he said. Now is not the time to make a hasty career decision, Buddy, said Earl. Now it's time to get ready for school. I wonder what Buddy did to a fire hydrant. Well, I'm going to use knowledge that I already have in my brain. What do dogs do with fire hydrants? I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to let you think about that. First, we need to eat a nutritious breakfast, said Earl as he began gnawing on Dad's slipper. That is not a nutritious breakfast, Earl, said Buddy. That's Dad's slipper. That explains why it tastes so disgusting, said Earl. His fancy shoes are tastier, admitted Buddy. I wonder why dogs and other animals like to chew on shoes. That would be one of my deep thinking questions. And again, each time you have a question, I'm going to encourage you to write it down. For the sake of my video, I'm going to simply just kind of mark the page here that I had a deep thinking question. Next, we need to wash our faces and smooth down our beautiful quills, said Earl. I do not have beautiful quills, Earl. Can I smooth down my beautiful ears instead? Asked Buddy. Of course, said Earl. Finally, we need to collect our school supplies, said Earl. We will need all our toys, your smelly blanket, a big pile of dirty socks, and as much toilet tissue as we can carry. Will we also need a snack? Asked Buddy hopefully. Absolutely, said Earl. I wonder what they're going to pack as a snack. What do dogs and hedgehogs like to eat? That is going to be a quick question. What do dogs and hedgehogs eat? Sticking it with a green sticky note to show that I have a quick question. Buddy and Earl had just finished gathering their school supplies when Meredith returned. You two need to come with me right now, she said. Otherwise, you're going to be late for school. Buddy and Earl did not want to be late for school, so they quickly followed Meredith down the hall to their new classroom. As soon as Buddy and Earl had taken their seats, Earl said hello to the other students. None of the other students said hello to Earl. None of them even looked at him. Why do you think the other students didn't say anything to Buddy and Earl? What do you think their problem is, Buddy? Whispered Earl. I think their problem is that they're only toys, whispered Buddy. Well, that's no excuse for being rude, said Earl irritably. Again, the author has answered our question as well. They're only toys. Earl sat there glaring at the other students until Meredith clapped her hands. Good morning, class, she said. I'm your teacher, Miss Meredith. Good morning, Miss Meredith, said Buddy politely. I'm bored, said Earl. When is recess? How long until gym? Isn't almost snack time? I'm feeling a bit of a connection here because I've definitely heard some of my grade 2s ask these same questions. Before Miss Meredith could answer Earl's questions, Mum hollered for her to come and clean up her breakfast dishes. I have another wonder. I wonder how old Meredith is. Well, we know she's still a child because she's living at home with her mom and she appears to be a child. So my quick question is, how old is Meredith? Again, you're going to be writing on your sticky note your question. How old is Meredith? Oh, this pen doesn't want to work for me here. I wonder why my pen stopped working. That's my question. Time for a new one. Children, I'm afraid I must attend a staff meeting, said Miss Meredith. Earl will be in charge while I'm gone. After Miss Meredith left, Earl quietly glowed with pride for a while. Then, in a voice filled with emotion, he said, "You know, I've always dreamed of being a teacher." "I thought you'd always dreamed of being a dentist, Earl," said Buddy. "Well, I prefer to be called Professor," said Earl stiffly. "Okay, Professor." I'm wondering what Earl's going to do while he's in charge. Again, a quick question. We're probably going to find out. Professor Earl led Buddy into the hall. "Your first class is called Sniffing Things," said Professor Earl. "I know how to sniff things," marveled Buddy. "You do?" said Professor Earl in amazement. "Show me." Buddy raced around sniffing everything that there was to sniff. "Well done," complimented Professor Earl. Why do you think dogs spend so much time sniffing things? Humans don't do that. Why do dogs? That's going to be a deep thinking question. Why do you think dogs smell literally everything? Buddy's next class was tail chasing. "I know how to do that too," said Buddy eagerly as he began to spin. "Faster, Buddy, faster," encouraged Professor Earl. Buddy chased his tail as fast as he could for as long as he could. "How did I do, Professor?" he asked woozily when he finally stopped. "Fantastically well," replied Professor Earl. "Our final class of the morning is scratching itches," said Professor Earl. "I can scratch itches!" exclaimed Buddy. Buddy scratched his back, his ears, and even his backside. "Magnificent," declared Professor Earl. Suddenly, he slapped himself on the forehead. "Oh no," gasped Professor Earl. "I almost forgot about the assembly." "Oh no," gasped Buddy. "What assembly?" "The one where a very special student is going to win a major award," cried Professor Earl. "We need to get to the auditorium right away." What if Buddy and Earl came to an assembly that we had at Peter Greer? I wonder what would happen. That's going to be a deep thinking question. Wouldn't it be interesting if a hedgehog and a dog came to one of our PGE assemblies? Buddy hurriedly followed Professor Earl to the auditorium. He helped Professor Earl onto the stage. Oh, and what are they using as the stage? The bed. Can you make a prediction? What might be the award that Buddy's going to earn? If it is Buddy that's going to get it, I'm also making that prediction. I'm looking at the picture clues here, and I'm thinking, well, hedgehogs don't like bones. There's a bag of bones here. This special student is clever, talented, and hardworking, began Professor Earl. How impressive, thought Buddy. He is loyal, brave, and kind, continued Professor Earl. Sounds like a good friend, thought Buddy. Lifting the major award high in the air, Professor Earl said, and the name of this very special student is, there's our ... More information coming. Buddy! Buddy could hardly believe his beautiful ears. Are you sure? He gasped. Yes, boomed Professor Earl. So come up here and get your award, Buddy. I'm coming, Professor, roared Buddy. I am coming. I wonder how these stuffed toys are now moving. I noticed that their arms have gone up in the air and they're kind of having a bit of a reaction here. And this also kind of looks like Meredith. I wonder if this is Meredith. So I have actually both a quick question and a deep thinking question. So I wonder if this little girl is Meredith. Quick question. Deep thinking question. Why do you think the stuffed toys are now being able to move? Because they already said back at the beginning that those guys can't move. So why are they moving now? Deep thinking question. Professor Earl gave Buddy his award, a standing ovation with a big, prickly hug. Thank you, Earl, said Buddy with a huge sigh. Next to being friends with you, going to school has been the best adventure ever. Says class dismissed. Now that we finished the story, it's time for us to go back to the beginning and see if we can answer some of our questions that we've left along the way. So our very first question that we asked, who is Buddy and Earl? Did we answer this question? We sure did. We learned later on in the story that Buddy is the dog and Earl is the hedgehog. So we answered this question. Let's go to another question that we had. How do you think they got a magic beanstalk? Well, that question actually wasn't answered in the story. So this deep thinking question requires us to maybe come up with our own answer. How do you think they got a magic beanstalk? Maybe they visited a fairy before they went to school on this day. Maybe there's another story that comes before this story that explains how Buddy and Earl got a magic beanstalk. So this deep thinking question requires me, I can Google if there's another book that came before this one about a magic beanstalk, or this deep thinking question just might be me doing my own thinking and using my imagination to come up with an answer. So again, our deep thinking questions, sometimes we just have to do our own thinking and do our own research. We're not going to be able to find one correct answer for this. And then we can carry on and we can continue checking all the questions that we had along the way. See if you can answer all your quick questions that you left marked. See if you can answer some of your deep thinking questions. And if you can't answer your deep thinking questions from the story, how might you find the answer to those questions? So when you're doing this activity today or later on this week, I really, really want you to see if you can answer all your quick questions and see if you can come up with some answers for your deep thinking questions. If you can't, 1, use your imagination. 2, ask a family member or a friend and see what they think. 3, you can use the internet and look it up. 4, that might just be a question that we'll continuously have. Happy questioning while you read.